Okay, hi everyone. It's been a while since I did another interview with authors, and this time we have Ryan Cahill back to my channel. How many times now? Is it the fourth time? Yeah,
Way too
probably the
many.
fourth. Yeah, way too
Way
many,
too.
I guess.
I don't. Yeah.
But
Always
everyone,
good to
please
be here.
welcome Ryan to my YouTube channel once again. And Ryan, welcome back. What's up, man? It's been 6 months since
Oh,
I last saw you.
this always happens to me. I always have YouTube on in the back and in the
Yeah.
background, and then you're like, "Oh, Ryan!" It always happens at the perfect time. Oh, Ryan, you talk to people, and then the sound blares on the YouTube video as it goes live. Yeah, I just submitted the. I was saying to you just there before we came live that I just submitted the final files for book 4 to Amazon last night at 3 a.m. So I'm happy that something is finally ready to go. It's been a long time coming for me. For
How many
everyone who
years?
waits for a book, like it's a longer time for the person writing the book.
It's
I'm so tired.
2 years, right? Since Of War and Ruin.
Yeah, 2 years. 2
Yeah.
years and a lot of bits in between because there's been a novella, and 2 short stories in that time as well.
Yeah. And this book is how long now? 460?
480,000 words.
Insane, man.
Yeah, it's a long book.
Yeah, it's
It's a
almost
long
as
book.
long as Win and Truth. We will talk about that. But first, I want to
Oh yeah.
congratulate you. I don't know if this is true or not, but I just saw Of Blood and Fire earlier on Goodreads, and it seems like it's been 4 years since you became an author.
Yeah. So it's almost going to be 4 years to the day. So I launched Blood and Fire on the 17th of March, and this is going to launch on the 31st of March. So
That's
pretty damn close to each other.
4 books, 4 novels, and how many novellas?
It's
3?
1.5 million words. 4
Amazing, man.
novels, 3 novellas, 2 short stories in 4
Amazing.
years. And do you know what was crazy? And this is where so we'll talk about it later on. But it came up a while ago that when Wind and Truth came out, that I realized that with a year to spare, I've written this entire series between Rhythm of War and Wind and Truth. Like with a year
really?
to spare. Rhythm of War came out in 2020. I released Blood and Fire in 2021, and then A Vampires and Dust comes out just a couple of months or a few months after Wind and Truth.
Wow.
So because I realized I hadn't had to face a Sanderson release throughout my entire career, which is crazy.
Well, both of us haven't read Win and Truth yet, but seeing the
No.
recent reception, it's probably good if you actually release Win and Truth, release of Empires and Dust
It's weird.
last year.
It's weird. It's like I'm not the kind of person to talk bad about another author, especially Brandon Sanderson, because I have so much respect for him. And I've only read up to I'm about a quarter of the way through Words of Radiance, and I've really loved Way of Kings, and I'm really loving Words of Radiance as well. So I have nothing bad to say. But only Brandon Sanderson can have a book rated 4.44 and it be considered like a bit of a flop, which is ridiculous. That's so highly rated.
I know.
But yeah, we've talked about it before. I think it's a strange one with that. Like, you know, there's some people who hate on it just to hate on it, and there's some people who give it 5 stars just because it's Brandon Sanderson. And that's just the way of
some authors would actually kill to get actually a 4.4 average rating on Goodreads.
Yeah, of course they would. Like it's insane. The 4.4, it's staggeringly lower than his other Stormlight books, but it's like it's a phenomenal rating.
Yeah, it is still a very high rating. So yeah, someone asked, "What are you drinking, Ryan?" Of course, it's coffee. It's super early.
Yeah, I have like an 11-week-old baby now, so I'm not drinking whiskey this time in the morning.
Oh, by the way, everyone, Ryan is now a father. Congratulations!
I feel like that title has to be a little bit earned. I've kind of just existed at this stage.
It's tiring.
It's exhausting. The guys from Tutor Ramble asked me what it's like being a dad, and I was saying it's like if you've ever tried to wrangle a banshee that just goes around shitting itself the whole time. That's yeah.
It is happy days though, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah. I'm just it's exhausting, especially when you're trying to write the book. It's tough. Like, and I do have respect for a lot of people who've done it. Like, trying to write, especially like when you're working from home and you're sitting like between paper thin walls, and you're trying to write, and then it's just scream, 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 scream. And it's like, man, I need to rent an office or something because this is taking so much longer than it should.
I think it's really cute though that Amy is the one who decided that the name of your baby should be Ella, right?
Yeah, she didn't even realize. She was like,
She
oh, what about Ella? And I was like, you do realize that's one of the name characters in the book, yeah? She's like, oh, well, I like the name, so we're keeping it.
Sweet. I really thought
it's a fantasy author's dream, but when we're talking about boys' names, she's like, what about like Odin and Thor? And I was like, are you serious? Am I allowed to have those? I just thought they were off the table because they're so ridiculously fantasy. And obviously, it's not just fantasy, but like to authors of that, it's fantasy.
Yeah, I really thought it was you who named it. Okay, I'm gonna name my daughter Ella, but no, it's
I
Amy.
I wish it was Amy. I have to tell that to everybody because everyone else thinks I'm like conceited and they've named my baby after a character in my book, which is not what happened.
And well, she doesn't have a really good life recently in the end of War and Ruin. I haven't read.
Characters are characters. You know, they're going to go through some shit.
Yeah, I haven't read of Empires and Dust yet, but it seems like a lot of people
have. This is not cozy fantasy.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm gonna take some questions for now, Cyprian.
Oh, thanks.
You see, someone already finished it. Insane.
Oh, there's like 130 people already finished it.
Incredible. And recent, all the reviews have been very positive, right?
Yeah, I got the standard two people with private profiles do a drop in 1 star with rating with no review. I've got that, that's standard for any launch. But all the reviews since launch have been amazing, really, really good, which is kind of taking a huge weight off my shoulders. So when you spend this long and work this many hours writing a book and you go to release it, it is the most nerve-wracking experience.
It doesn't change.
It's nice. Huh?
It doesn't change since the beginning, right?
No, it doesn't change at all. I've always said there's like 2 types of writers. There's a type of writer who walks around thinking they're the next Tolkien, thinking that like the world just hasn't recognized their genius yet. And you see them all the time. And then you see the other author who, no matter how much success they've had or how many books they've written, they still think they don't have any idea what they're doing. And that one seems to be far more common.
Okay.
People I know who have achieved incredible success, written so many books, and I was talking to them going, guys, does this ever change? And this is 1.5 million words in now, and I still don't really feel like I know what I'm doing. So no, it doesn't change. It does not change.
But you have
I also feel like it's a sign that you're pushing yourself harder. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, that you're not settling. Like I could have written of Empires and Dust very differently, and I could have tried to write it the exact same way as every other book, and I could have done it much easier. But I wanted to write it the way I did. I wanted to challenge myself and push myself a little bit more, which is just part of what I enjoy about writing, like challenging yourself and trying to get better.
Yeah, I think this is related to the topic that I want to first discuss, and that is about returning to the roots of epic fantasy. Now, I think many of us who have read The Bound and the Broken knows that there are some parts that actually minders. Not actually minders, but actually kind of like absorb the calm moments. And there are plenty of moments like that. And
I like the word meander there. Like, it can get used in a derogatory sense, not specifically to me, but the word meander can be used in a derogatory sense. But I think with epic fantasy, I think it's a great word.
Yeah.
Like taking that chance to not just take the really sharp pace that modern fantasy's taken. Modern fantasy to me has been really obsessed with getting from plot point A to plot point B extremely quickly, as fast as you can. Every chapter has to move from plot point A to plot point B. And I don't feel that way. I feel like there should be progression in every chapter, but it doesn't always have to be directly plot progression. Like I like that the old epic fantasies gave you room to breathe. They gave you room to take in the world and take in the characters. And I think maybe less so the characters, in that I think modern fantasy is far more character driven than classic epic fantasy. Like if you actually go back and you read The Lord of the Rings and read those books, in our memories, they're very character driven. But when you go back, it's more about his prose and about the world, and the characters are in the world. Whereas I feel like modern classic epic fantasy isn't about the characters in the world, it's about the characters reacting to the world.
Yeah.
But
I think for me, it's mainly about the finding the right balance. Like I love modern fantasy, but not let's say at the stage it is right now, because I feel like I'm in a reading slump because of like as you said, it's like constantly point A to point B. Like
yeah,
when I finish, it's a good story, but it doesn't leave a lasting impression on me. And I feel like
yeah,
sometimes the meandering part in the world, and also the calm moments and all that, I think that matters a lot when it comes to matter of reading experience in epic fantasy. And your
mhm,
book is like 470,000 words long. Now, one of the biggest issue that Win and Truth, I think, encounters, based on what I heard, is that the word count is not justified.
yeah.
Win and Truth is 490,000. I think it's that long. Yeah, 490,000.
491, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's really long. It's really long. Your
Yeah,
book is really long too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess the question is it a must for epic fantasy to be that big?
No, not at all. Like I think something that's been lost. I honestly think it's been lost partly because of BookTube, and partly because of the way people read now.
Hmm.
Like if you weren't on the online book community and you weren't
Yeah.
in BookTube, I know I never read a book and then tried to critically analyze the book I just read. I just decide whether I enjoyed it or not, and
Yeah.
then I move off. But I think when we break it down like that, we can think of things in different ways. But I think the main thing, the easiest way to answer the question is, we've forgotten that there's different types of stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, could Vampires and Dust, could I have taken that story, okay, and split it into 3 books? I
Yeah.
could
True.
have.
True.
They would have been 3 bad books, and they wouldn't have told the story that I wanted to tell. And I think that's part of like the difference in this longer form storytelling, is understanding that it's a choice. So
Mm.
every epic fantasy doesn't have to be incredibly long, but the style of story that I am telling doesn't work if I just
Mm.
break it up randomly.
Yeah.
There are different stories to tell, and I could do it. So like I could have taken Dane's story in Valtara, and I could have wrote a trilogy on that, and then I could have taken some, and that would have been a trilogy, but it wouldn't have been the experience I wanted you to have with Valtara linked to the rest of the world at the same time, in the way things are going on with different parts of the world affecting what's happening there, and the story would be a different story. And I
Yeah.
think that's the main one. They don't need to be longer, but if I had, or as long as, say, like mine are, but if I broke it up, it wouldn't be The Bound and the Broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be a different series. Like, it's okay, it could be a worse series, it could be a better series, but it would be a different series. And I think that's one of the main ones. And I was talking about this in my Discord a while ago, is we're obsessed now. I think Brandon Sanderson has kind of caused it. Wind and Truth seemed like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. Yeah.
With what people were with this topic, and like people have become obsessed with, does it justify its word count? Does it justify its word count? And I'm kind of going, every book, large or small, should need to
Mm.
justify its word count.
Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
think with these longer books, what's different is the interconnectedness within the book needs to be stronger. You don't need to justify the word count. You need to justify the style of storytelling. Like, for instance, when I'm writing of Empires and Dust, I need to justify why this story needs to be told this way. Not that it's longer, but I need to justify why it's a long form story. You know, and you justify that by the interconnectedness in the book, and then by the ending.
Yeah.
The longer the book, the bigger the ending needs to be. Like I always equate, I've seen it before equated to like a piece of string. Like, the longer you pull a piece of string, the bigger the snap should be at the end.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a long story allows you to get a really long, tight piece of string, and then when you get to the end, that should be bang.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then your book will have a really unsatisfying ending. And
Yeah.
it's the part that, like, I need to justify that all of these chapters, all of this story of Empires and Dust, all 480,000 words need to be told as one 480,000 word story, and not 3 separate stories. And part of that is part of its craft. It's about building the start to make sure that every decision that happens in the start affects the middle, affects the end, affects each other, and how you see a choice that one character makes affects another character's life, and how you watch it happen. That interconnectedness within the story is what you need to be looking for. And it's something that I've spent a lot of time over the last 2 years making sure is there. And like in general, like you know from reading the books, I don't go on a lot of side quests. I'm not obsessed with going from point A to point B, but I don't send the characters normally meandering off. The characters, the reader meanders a little bit through the story, take some time to slow down and see the world, but the characters are usually going pretty linear, and so that allows me to be reasonably confident that I haven't put a lot of filler in the book. That, and there's also like 16, 17 POV characters in Vampires in Dust. Not all of them are major, not all of them get huge amounts, but there's a lot of characters, a lot of story. And the more characters you have, I think it's Mary Robinette Kowal talks about the mice quotient all the time for short stories. And part of the concept when you're designing your nested stories is that every I'm going to get it wrong because I don't understand it the way she understands it, but every character, every POV you put in will extend the word count of whatever work of fiction you're doing. So that can be the thing. You know, there's some people who are amazing, like Andy Peliquin. He writes The Darkblade Assassin. He has one POV, and the book's like 300,000 words, 400,000 words. I think I don't know if he hits 400,000 yet. Like they're like Andy's a brilliant writer, so that's its own thing, and that's a unique thing. But I've talked a lot now about this, but I really do. I feel like with the longer stories, I don't think books need to be long. But I think if you're going to make that choice to tell a long form 400,000 word story, you need to justify not the word count, but why the story should be told in that long form.
Yeah.
You know, and I think readers pick up on that subtly when they're reading. You might not know what is wrong, but you know something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
to
the vibe.
me, I feel. Sorry?
Sometimes it's about the vibe, man.
Oh, no, but 100%. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right?
It can very much be about the vibe. And, you know, like with that feeling, like when characters, when you're reading a book and you switch POV, and it does happen to me a lot with Way of Kings and stuff, when you're reading like Kaladin's point of view, and then I'll go to someone like, it's Shallan, is that how you say the name? Like, and I think Shallan's, and there's the difference. I think Shallan on her own, her point of view in a different story, actually could have been really interesting. I don't dislike her narrative, but it bounces off Kaladin's narrative. And for me, and when I read it, sometimes I feel deflated. And I'm like, I want to go back to Kaladin. You know, and I think a lot of people feel that way, but it doesn't help because his narrative is incredible. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
But you know, that can be part of it. But yeah.
Yeah. And also, I want to address something because sometimes some people think that subpublished fantasy, by making, I don't know why this question actually came up to my channel, but I might as well address this. Some people actually say that the bigger the word count, actually the bigger the money. That is not true. Okay,
it's a weird one, right? Because part of it technically can be because on Kindle Unlimited,
Kindle Unlimited, right?
But every ebook I sell, I've now written 4 times the amount of words and got paid the same amount as every other author who's releasing a 100,000 word book. Every physical book, like even the audiobooks, like the longer actually doesn't help. The longer might draw you in, or as a listener or a reader. But like my audiobook publisher, like, can we cut this in half? Because after 20 hours, you earn the same amount for a credit. So like, you know, this book's going to have like essentially 30 hours of unpaid listening for me when it goes on. So that's very much not the case. But I do think it's a weird one. Sanderson is the first time I've really seen this critique extend into the traditional world, because a lot of the time it gets pegged at indie authors. And Sanderson's the first time I've seen people start to actually question that really long form now, and it's only with the truth.
Yeah.
But, nobody's writing a longer book just to get more Kindle Unlimited page reads. So do you know what? I'm sure some people at one end of the spectrum might be at some places, but you know, if you're doing that, people are going to stop reading after book 1. It's obvious. Like if you go and you read the story, it's not going to be a good story if you're only writing it that long to get word count. And you won't sell book 2.
Yeah, and I think readers are actually really smart. They can tell when authors actually cut off just to get money. And I think, yeah. So yeah, that question really kind of threw me off a bit when I saw that. Like, what?
I think there's like it's already taken up a big part of our talk, but like I think part of it is coming from the whole length of books of some books. And it's really funny, people talk about the length of modern fantasy. I actually don't think that's true. I think if you go through it right now, I actually can't think of anyone writing the length of books I'm writing except for Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's someone else somewhere, but like in what's commercial and what's doing well right now, there really aren't a lot. Like it's gone up a bit, like Joe Abercrombie and a few others are writing in the 200s, and there's quite a few indie authors like Andy, like Philip Quintrell, like David Estes, who are writing in that 200 zone, and that's long. That is long. Like, but it's not. It still doesn't touch Wheel of Time or anything like that, and it's not like 400k, not 500k. Like it's not that crazy long. So I actually think it's the same thing where there's like a not misinterpretation, but misrepresentation of it. The same way that people are so worried about series not finishing when really a lot of the high profile ones, Scott Lynch, Patrick Rothfuss, and George R. Martin, have kind of just 3 major things. I'm sure there's other people that people can list, but in comparison to the amount of people who have finished their series, it's actually a very small number.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I call them the Bermuda Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle.
They cause so many damage sometimes.
Oh man.
Okay, there's one question. Are you still planning? We will talk about special edition in more details later, but for now, are you still planning to release an ultimate special edition of The Bound and the Broken through Kickstarter? Perhaps a genuine leatherbound set. Okay.
So the answer is 100% yes, and I've already commissioned artwork for it. I've been building artwork over the last while to get ahead of myself, to get ready. And I promised a long time ago that I wouldn't make my own special editions until the series is finished. I know, like I've released the Broken Binding special edition, and there's been other bits going along, but that took a lot less of my time than if I was doing everything for this. I didn't want to give my time. Essentially, I didn't want to give my time to trying to earn more money off my readers. I know there's going to be people who are going to take this a certain way, but who earn more money off my readers before I finished my series, right? I felt like I owed it to my readers. I know a lot of authors will say, you don't. An author doesn't owe readers anything, and no, they don't. Okay, you have a life, you've everything else going on, you don't owe anyone anything. But my readers have been incredibly supportive, like amazingly, passionately supportive for a long time now, and I write this series as much for them as I do for me, and I personally wanted to give them this series. I wanted to show them my commitment to this series before I start trying to take more money in special editions. With regards to leatherbound, this is something that we'll talk about, like personally outside of this too. I'm really flopping back and forward between leatherbound or something more like the Folio Society, Game of Thrones.
Folio Society, go for that.
They're not leatherbound. They're in like a Brillianta cloth, and they have the design on the front, because I think with the leatherbound are cool, but they can have a danger of basically looking like every other leatherbound on the shelf.
Yeah. And
you can't do as much. So I'm going to find out over the next while and see what's better, but I am kind of going back and forward between that leatherbound and that really, really high quality Brillianta cloth. Definitely going to do them.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Do them.
I will probably work with Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey guys, perfect timing. Hey Steven. Meeting lunch. And this is also, I think this is also a good topic. Threadpop really just doesn't want to do epic fantasy. It's not that they don't want to do epic fantasy, but it's where the money. They follow where the money lies. And
I looked down at the comment section and goes, "Who is Ryan Cahill? I know Petrik, but I don't know Ryan." I was like,
"Well, now you know who Ryan is.
Now you know me." It's like anything that conversations come up a lot on Twitter and stuff, right? About epic fantasy. And the truth, like the truth is, for basically everything else, is a very boring middle ground. Everyone always argues in extremes. There's people going, publishing hates men. There's no books for men, and it's horrible, and it's all women now. And then the other side had been like, you know, this concept of, well, it's always been men. It's time for another turn. And the reality is, it's like it's somewhere in the middle. Romantasy is selling a lot, so publishing is a business, and so they're publishing a lot of romantasy. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if something is selling and you have the opportunity to sell it because you need to make money because you have staff. The publishing business needs to survive.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's CEOs with millions and millions and millions, but most of the people in that publishing industry, they don't have millions and millions and millions. They're normal people with normal jobs, and they're trying to make money. And like, yeah, at the minute, right now, in the traditional publishing circuit, with regards to new authors, epic fantasy is underserved. And you see there's people on both sides. So then you see there's one where someone went through a bookshop and it was all romantasy, went through Target or something, and then someone else went to a bookshop. It's like, well, look at all these male authors. And the reality is, 95% plus of those male authors who were in Barnes and Noble were published 10 years ago, and have some more recent stuff, but they're not debuts. They're not new authors. And it is okay. Like, publishing goes in cycles. People just get like kind of crazy about stuff real quickly. Like, you know, everything has to be this mad thing. It is a thing. At the minute, right now, epic fantasy is underserved in the traditional market, but it's flourishing in the indie market. That's the truth of it. Like, it's there. And I'm not going to complain if traditional publishing world wants to give me more of the readership. That's okay.
Obviously.
That's okay. 100%.
Yeah, because,
you know, I'm sitting here, people saying that they don't want epic fantasy anymore. Epic fantasy's dead. And I was like, epic fantasy is not dead.
Yeah,
at the minute, they're not taking the risks. You know, it's larger print costs. People got to understand that. Like, with books like mine, like 400,000, 500,000 words, it's a serious fucking risk.
Yeah.
Like, it's a much bigger risk. They can take a chance on 5 other authors, you know, at 400 or at 100,000 word a book, instead of just taking a chance on someone writing a 400,000, 500,000 word epic fantasy. Like, so I get that. And they know romantasy is selling right now. So it's much less of a risk. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to talk about this. I think I mentioned the topic about epic fantasy at the moment. The epic stuff that we like to read is not often available in the traditional published market, but it is not the case in indie market. That doesn't change. There's so many big books in indie fantasy right now, like so many.
But it's a real funny one because, like, people go, I love the indie world because you can be as creative as possible and you can all these quirky books. Like, the reality is, the really commercially successful books in indie fantasy aren't the weird quirky books that people think indie allows you to write. They're the commercial books. Like, you know, and you go on the opposite end. Obviously, there's lit RPG, which isn't traditionally commercial. But they are very written to market book, you know, and that's a different spectrum. And now with Dungeon Crawler Carol getting picked up by Penguin or Random House or whatever the hell they are now, I don't even know. It's like some weird kind of, you know, Dragon Ball Z fusion going on with all the publishing houses right now. Long-form stories rent that sugar rush love for me, where it fizzles out soon after the last page. To each their own. Looking series with both long and short form. Well, that's I have novellas in mind too. But I think, like, but even that, like, the long-form stories prevent the sugar rush, to me, is a really general statement, because like a long-form story told right shouldn't do that. You know, you should still be able to keep the reader going, and if you can't, either the reader just isn't meshing with the story, or you haven't told the story right. You know, because obviously you can't have a breakneck pace for 400,000 words, but you should always have like things to keep the hooks in. But yeah, I forgot what the previous topic was.
Well, let's talk about this. This is Karin. Very nice.
Karin, yeah. Karin's been there from the very, very start, and it's really cool for me seeing I can recognize people's names, and I can recognize some of their like social media tags from when I started in 2021, and they've kind of people who bought the fall when I was hand painting the edges on in my parent-in-law's spare room.
I remember that.
Like,
I still have that.
Like that's the big difference to me. Like, it's crazy seeing like a Blood and Fire in the Fall. Like, I saw the Broken Binding special editions sell for like $2,000, 2 of them together, the Fall and Blood and Fire, on eBay a while ago, not that long ago at all. And then I'm thinking back, remember when I first printed the first 50 of Bloodfire hardbacks, and I had them stacked on my kitchen table in a rented house in Palmerstown in Ireland. And then with the fall, I hand painted the gold on their edges in a small spare room in Amy's family's house. And it's just so strange seeing the difference now.
Yeah, I know. It's 4 years and so many has changed, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now, I think I can safely say that a lot of indie authors actually looked up to you. Have you ever predicted this kind of thing?
No, it's all really strange to me. Like it's cool. I feel like now finally after about 4 years, I feel like I probably am justified in feeling like I can actually give some advice.
Yeah.
Both on writing and from a publishing marketing perspective. I feel like now I put enough work in. I feel like all advice is, dependent on the person, but I feel like now I'm finally qualified a little bit to do some of that, like to try and help people. Because sometimes it feels weird, like you're telling people something. It's like, who am I to tell people anything? Like, I was working in a lab 4 years ago. Like it's strange. I don't think it'll ever not be strange.
Yeah. I actually talked to Joe Abercrombie about this. And even to this day, he still feels strange about people saying that he's their inspiration.
It's weird. I feel like I'm still stumbling around trying to find what to do. And so it's strange hearing someone say that. But like it's really cool. It's just very hard to believe.
Yeah. This is a good question. I think people should know about this. When will a hardcover copy of Empires and Dust will be available?
Man, I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten this message.
Yeah.
We're probably scratching 15, 20 times a day now. But I'll put like Instagram posts that explicitly will say when they're coming and when the audiobooks are coming, and then right below the post it'll say when are the hardbacks coming. So the plan is maybe about 2 weeks. It kind of just depends. It's the problem with stuff like this is the longer the book, the longer it takes to format the book. So the book has to be formatted for print. And then also because it's a longer book and because I'm not Brandon Sanderson and because I can't tell the printers to just change how they print to accommodate my book, I need to make sure that it'll actually be printable. Like indies don't have that same scope and that same stretch for doing this. So I need to fit to the printer's ability.
Your book is almost 500. Your book is almost 500,000. Is it printable?
Yeah, like it should be. Like it's 480,000. You added 20,000 words there, but it should be printable. Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. But it is going to be right up to their limit. We just have to format it right. It's the unfortunate part is like, Brandon Sanderson can write, I don't know how many pages, when it should ended up being, I think it's like 1,200 or something, but like that's 150 extra pages that I'm not allowed. My printer can only print 1,050 pages. So the problem is I would much rather add 100 pages, 150 pages and keep the font size bigger and keep other stuff bigger. So that it takes a bit longer because there's probably going to be a bit of back and forth on what's acceptable. Like, because there's no point in printing a book that no one can read.
Yeah.
So that's the harder part. Like last time, Wheel of Time was my gauge. I was printing out pages of the formatted book and sliding it into the Wheel of Time book and going, okay, is the font the same size? All right, sweet. Like that's really cool. Yeah.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah. That's what you have to do.
Okay. Someone has said the Curious King is a nice option. Well, yeah,
their books are so good.
Their books are so gorgeous. Okay, but it is not the most accessible. Their price is very expensive, so Ryan has to think about that for sure.
Yeah, there are bits of both. The idea is what I'm making is meant to be a deluxe edition.
Yeah.
Right. So like we've released the broken binding editions at like £55, and I want to make sure there's affordable versions of whatever I'm doing because I want people to be able to buy them and not have to bankrupt themselves. But I also do want to. I want to be able to make a scaled one. I want if people can afford, because I'm not there to just kind of leech money off stuff. Like I want people to be able to get as nice an edition as they can. So if they can afford to have a higher spec thing, I want that to be an option. But I also want there to be a nice, affordable edition too. And that's like what something like Kickstarter can allow is to allow those tiers of book. it's going to take a lot of research to make sure I can do it. But yeah, like some of the Curious Kings one are crazy expensive, but really, really, really well put together. If someone's willing to pay 12 grand for a book, like they're not going to miss that 12 grand because if they have it to spare. I wish
Absolutely.
I had it to spare.
And this is a question that has popped up a lot, so I'm gonna put it here because I think this is a lot of aspiring authors want to know. What was like? I didn't catch on to Ryan until about 2 years ago. What was like in the beginning for you, Ryan? And what do you think contributed to your success? First of all, I'm going to have to say, Ryan actually messaged me, very politely, in the beginning,
I
talking about, yeah, and that's actually a good start. You never know who you're gonna hit, So yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Well, it's hard because like the second part of that question, you get questioned that really often. The second part of the question is a whole interview on its own.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing that I do try and say that a lot of people always ask, what's the one thing? It's like, it's not a one thing. It's not. And a lot of the time, human nature is to try and find the shortest path to the thing that we want. And there rarely is a short path. People turn around and say, what contributed to your success? It's like, well, there's 100 different factors that contributed to it. I think like some of the really short ones are like just trying to be, like you were saying, just trying to be nice to people. Like, how you carry yourself on social media, how you speak to people, how you treat people. It seems like such an obvious thing, but it makes a massive difference. And then your professionalism, which kind of ties in with it too. But, there's smaller parts of that, like not just professionalism, what you do, but professionalism and what you produce. Like there's so many indies I see now who pay 2 or 3 grand for these beautiful, beautiful covers. Okay. And then you can tell that they've then gone and done the typography themselves. And the difference is a bad typography can turn a beautiful cover into a terrible book cover.
Yeah.
Like really quickly. And because you're not, and this came up a while ago. Okay. I think it was Beard of Darkness put it on Twitter and he got a lot of stick for it. Which it can happen. The thing is, I don't know a single commercially successful author who disagreed with basically anything he said. And I'm sure I'll get flack for that too. But the difference is, though, people naturally assume that what he's saying then is you have to go and pay 2 grand for stuff. And people say, well, I can't afford that. It's like, yeah, but no, it's not that you have to pay 2 grand for something. I paid £50 for my first cover. All right. But I waited and I went through everything I could find and I made sure they were professional quality. And the difference being, like, you need to be able to take it, go into Amazon, take all the best trad books, best-selling trad books there, and you need to be able to put your cover in a lineup with them. And really, you shouldn't be able to pick it out. From a professionalism standpoint, they need to be the same. And I think that's what he was saying in it. But people get kind of obsessed with the kind of cost value thing, which like I understand. But it's not about having to pay crazy money for something. It's about understanding where your strengths are. And knowing that like I'm not a graphic designer. And the reality is if I spend 2 years, 3 years writing a book, if I spend 2 years, Christopher Kant is in the
oh really?
He's paying 3K for a cover, send them over my way. I think that very much depends on, if you're an illustrator and you have like 100 people messaging you for the month, you can turn around to someone and say, hey, look, if you'll pay me 3K, I'll take yours instead of the 1K that I'm doing for this one. And that's part of evolving. But not everyone's 3K. There's people who are 1,000. Like I think the most common cost region for like really professional quality artwork, like custom illustrated artwork, is usually, yourself as well. It depends on what you're doing, and people charge more for companies. But around 1,500, 1,000 to 1,500 is really reasonably common for big double-page color pieces. And some people are more expensive, some people are cheaper. But then if you go to like iconography style, like I have, you can get them a lot cheaper again. But it's just that professionalism, understanding your strengths, understanding that, hey, do you know what? I'm not able to achieve the level of professionalism from my typography or from my design that I want. And I've spent a lot of time on this book. I spent, 2 years, 3 years doing that. And it's one of the other things as well is I find a lot of I'll get a lot of indie authors will ask me for advice and they'll ask me specific questions.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time what I've found is they're not actually asking me for my advice. they're asking me to validate what they already believe. So, what do you think of my
Ah,
cover? And if I have a problem with the cover, then I'm wrong. Or, can you tell me about something? I said, well, you're pricing the book extremely high. And they say, oh, well, it's worth it because I've worked this hard on it. And I'm like, no, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. The concept that, well, I've spent 2 years of my life on this book, it should be $8.99. I said,
yeah.
yes, but would you rather sell 5 books at $8.99 or 1,000 books at $3.99? The value to your work is in your overall sales, not how much you charge per sale. And like that could be the difference. It's like investing in your long-term career. There's so many factors when it comes to this. But it's about doing, a lot of it comes down to doing your market research. If you do your market research, if you go onto Amazon and you look at the costs of all the books that are going, all the best-selling books, you'll see that there's like conditioned pricings.
Yeah.
There's 99 cents, 2.99, 3.99, 4.99, 5.99. Some go to 6.99, but they're usually at the end of larger series that are successful already. And outside those price ranges, there really aren't a lot of books. One price you'll almost never see is $1.99, because $1.99, Amazon only allows you 70% royalties if the book is above $2.99 or $2.99 or above, essentially. So if you drop to $1.99, you're actually only getting 30%. So you may as well drop it to 99 cents, because 99-cent books sell more than $1.99 books do. Whereas, fun fact, $2.99 books on average sell about the same as a $1.99 book. So you're just leaving a lot of money on the table. But it's stuff like that. It's taken the time. I think it was 6 or 7 months before I launched, where I was just researching everything humanly possible. Like Amy would see me, I'd just be sitting up. I'd have like 7 different blog posts open up on it was just crazy. So much. I become obsessed with this kind of stuff. Like, it's just the way I am. So I'll be reading them for hours until like 3 or 4 in the morning, trying to find stuff out, taking notes, putting them into like my notepads and spreadsheets and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think you did the right thing.
It's a video on its own.
Yeah. But I do want to say to self-published fantasy authors, it matters a lot right now, because your cover really need to stand out in the digital thumbnail. Yeah, that matters a lot. Okay, that really have to stand out more than anything else, because that will decide whether people click on that or not. Not the matter of paying $3,000 for a cover. If it doesn't stand out,
But it's also understanding that beautiful art doesn't always make a beautiful cover.
Yeah.
And that sometimes when you've spent a long time writing a book, your thought process is, I need to pick my favorite scene from the book. You don't. It doesn't have to be the scene. You need to pick the art that best sells your book. And sometimes it's like wish fulfillment, like, oh, I love this part of my book, I want to see it illustrated. That's amazing. And if you are lucky enough to get the chance and have the money to be able to fund more illustrations later in your career, and like I have been with the Broken Binding and with other pieces that I've done, I'm able to fulfill that wish. But at the start, that cover needs to sell you. It needs to sell what's inside the book. It needs to signify tone. It needs to signify so many different things. You want to capture as much about your story in that one image, so readers can kind of make snap decisions. Whereas sometimes there's beautiful art pieces that really don't have a lot of emotion in them, if that makes sense. Or they don't tell a lot about the story, so people can go over it pretty quickly.
Look at this dude.
Classic fucking Mike.
Mike.
Asshole. But it is actually, it's even talking to Mike and talking to you there about, I think you guys have pretty similar opinions on this, about being burnt out at the minute with just loads of fantasy. And that's what I found with Vampires and Dust coming out. Basically, none of the big YouTubers are reading it right now. And that's okay for me. Like, I'm in a position where I have loads of readers right now. The pre-orders are selling. It's the most pre-ordered book I've ever had. It's going really well. But I feel like you can kind of see it. Like, I can see it in all the different YouTubers that I know, like in you, and I think Library Viking, Johan seems to be the same a lot of the time right now, and Mike, and a lot of those people who are just consuming so many books right now. You're obviously going to experience that burnout sooner than people who are reading at a normal human rate, because you're consuming so much of it. But I am seeing that trend.
Yeah.
You're laughing at me.
Nah,
Fucking Mike.
she's laughing at fucking Mike, bro. Also, June
And
is really
fucking Mike
funny.
is a term of affection in
Yeah,
Ireland. So yeah.
she actually read the books from the beginning just because she wanted to
Yeah.
find out how I get killed in Of Empires and so that's a
I
selling
really
point.
like that scene. I think you're gonna like that scene.
Yeah, but yeah, you mentioned a great point really, because usually when your book came out, I immediately jumped at it immediately.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just feeling super burned out. I don't know. It's probably like a constant. It's probably like a constant of the number of books that I've read, and also, like I said earlier, I'm just not feeling super satisfied by the books that
Yeah.
I read lately.
And like it's the thing that I actually said to Mike as well. Like I'm really hoping that from what like he said, and other people have said, like I think this book, I really think this is the best thing I've ever written, and I do think that it hits the notes that you might be missing or looking for in some of the other modern fantasies because of the type of book that it is. But at the same time, it's the same way I approached you with the Blood and Fire. I said,
Yeah,
hey, here's the book, read it whenever you can, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Because me pushing you to read it now will never result in something good. And I think a lot of indie authors in particular, mostly because I think the kind of air in the trad sphere is like authors don't send their own books to reviewers, publishers
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Okay, so indie authors are more tasked. Maybe there are trad authors who do it, but I think that is usually the publisher's job when it comes to just sending out arcs and stuff. Whereas indie authors or indie publishers are more used to approaching different booktubers or reviewers and stuff. But if I push you, or like I say to Mike, no, Mike, I want you to read this now. Okay, you're in a bad headspace. Like you're
yeah,
going to read the book, you're going to feel like you're forced to read the book. You're not going to read it with a clean slate in your mind
yeah.
that you would hope you approach every book with. And it's one thing I think a lot of people kind of forget about is the state of mind and the time in your life at which you read a book has a massive effect on your enjoyment of the book.
Exactly.
Like there's a time where you might
Yeah.
love this book and a time where you might hate this book. And I can almost guarantee you that if I push you to read it now, you're going to be in one of those times where you're more likely to hate it. And so like for me, I can sit there and I go, look, right, here's your books, here's your review copy, whichever it is. Whenever you get to read it, amazing. I hope you love it. I think that can be a big difference with authors and approaching reviewers, and a bit of advice for newer indie authors to kind of think like that. And a lot of people say it's really well and good for you to say that now because you put out a book and it will sell this and it will sell that. But I didn't when I started. My dad bought Amy literally went and bought ebooks on Amazon Australia of the first book and said to her family, I will buy them if you read them.
Really?
We were talking about that recently when the first book was coming out, and she wasn't even telling me. And my dad was buying loads of the books behind my back online and that sort of stuff. And so I think it's easy sometimes for people to look at someone who has had whatever measure of success you deem successful and to think, oh, well, it's easy for them to say they're successful. It's yeah, but everyone started somewhere. And so, I always like the concept of dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I was starting out, I wanted to act a certain way, not act a certain way, but I wanted to carry myself a certain way, treat people a certain way, and kind of have that understanding with books. I think when you're in the publishing sphere, especially the book community online, it's really easy for you to become absorbed by the community and to become obsessed with these books. And you kind of forget that outside of that sphere on Twitter, these people are real people. That reviewer receiving that book might just be having a shitty time.
Yeah.
You don't want them to read your book in a shitty time, and you don't want to pressure them to do it. If they're going to read it, they're going to read it. I think that can be the hardest part, especially when you're starting out. Just kind of that waiting, that patience, that, I hope they read it, but what if they don't?
Yeah. But you did that, though. You did that.
I tried.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good advice, really, for those indie authors who are starting out. Remember that reviewers who want to read your books also have responsibilities, have life on their own. Yeah. And also, this is ZB still. every person I know who's read the arc has cried. I mean that in a literal tears streaming down their faces.
There's some scenes in this book, and there's some scenes that I have teared up, and teared up is probably not even. I've definitely cried when writing some parts of it, and
Wow.
I've definitely teared up even when editing them. There's a lot.
Okay.
It is great. It is great. I'm very happy.
I'm gonna believe you. Okay. Okay. So Patrick and Ryan, early on the stream you mentioned 2 short stories already written. I've only managed to find one of them. Well,
yeah. So the other one is The Old Lie, and it is going to be in the Grim Oak anthology Unavowed. So that is the hardbacks are currently still available on Grim Oak. It's an anthology that has some really, really great authors in it, like Michael J. Sullivan and Aura Verdi and many others. And yeah, so the hardback is due to publish this summer. I think they're still available on Grim Oak's website. And then I think there is an exclusivity of like 6 months. So I'll probably, when I do an anthology of short stories, I'll probably include it in that too.
Without tear off particularly.
I think you'll probably laugh.
Okay.
Like it's weird though, but it's like it's dark. Like what happens is dark, but because it's you, it's funny.
Oh my god, I got so many messages on this. Have you seen your death? Have you seen your death? No,
you die in a pretty similar time frame to John Gwynne as well. So
oh really?
Yeah, you're in the same scene.
Oh my god. Vampires and Dust was sponsored
by Kleenex.
Oh, that profile picture is from your end paper.
Yeah, that's Omer's artwork.
Yeah. Of course, let's talk about a special edition for now, because many people are asking about broken binding press of your books, which has gotten, as we talked about earlier, super popular right now. So yeah, might as well talk about this now. Will there be more special editions for the Bound and the Broken? Now, Ryan has talked about the Kickstarter eventually to come after the series is completed. But I think right now the question is for the broken binding press, because it's about to goes on sale really soon, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's on sale right now. The Dark Sunlight one is on sale. Yeah, it's on sale. They released it, but then the previous buyers for the fall have 7 weeks because they wanted to give an extended amount of time, because we live in a world where money doesn't flow like a river, and not everyone has money at all times. And sometimes, we wouldn't want people who've supported it the whole way to not be able to buy it just because payday was 28 days ago and they can't afford it. So it gives 7 weeks to make sure that the people who've supported it the whole way aren't just going to get beaten by a deadline. That gives them a bit more time to get it. Like it's a really hard one. Because people keep asking about reprints of those, and it is really tough because we sold them on the premise that, look, this is a limited numbered run. That's what you're buying. Okay. You're buying a book that has an inherent value and that has a specified number and quantity. We never thought they'd be like this. I never anticipated the series to be this popular. Like Of Blood and Fire, those special editions were on sale for quite a while. Like
it's 6 months,
3 months, at least 3 months.
Yeah, it's a long time.
At least, like a lot of them sold real quick, and then there was maybe a few hundred that were left. But the problem was the way the series popularity went. They were there. We printed 1,500. We're going to have to we print too much? And then they slowly kind of sold, and then they sold out, and then the fall came around, and that was just gone.
Yeah.
And so it's tough because we at first just never expected to be able to sell that many anyway. And then they did sell, and now we were faced with the problem is, we would have earned a lot more money, right? From a money perspective, if we had just reprinted more, okay? Because someone else buying it for $2,000 over in the US doesn't give me any money. And I don't want my readers to get fleeced. I don't want people to be coming in buying like 4 or 5 of them and then selling them at crazy prices to my readers. And that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why we'd look to try and reprint them maybe, but it is hard because I don't want to just turn around and be disingenuous to what I said to the readers, and I don't want to just to try and make more money, like just to turn stuff over to line our pockets when we made a promise. So it's hard. We've talked about this sort of stuff, but it's not as simple as just reprinting them when we've made kind of promises and we've sold them in a certain way. What I will say is the Trad re-release, the Broken Binding acquired the worldwide print rights to the series. They have all new covers, and all of the first editions are going to be with sewn binding, acid-free paper, foiling, embossing, they are going to be beautiful books, really high quality books that will last a long time. So they're not going to be at the level of the press editions, even just with the amount of artwork and stuff. But from a quality perspective, they're going to be beautiful. So that's a really good mid-range, and they're going to be a lot cheaper. And then we're hoping there will be more special editions as we go along. We see some other people or some other companies and see if they want to do some. So it's harder with the special editions at the minute. There will be more, but I don't know when. And with the reprint, that one I really can't confirm because there's a lot of back and forth over what's actually right to do.
Yeah. And also, it's not as simple as saying that we will reprint. And we know that we will get more money if we do that. But at the same time, we already, Ryan, especially Ryan, already make promises that this will be limited to 1,500. So that's like breaking promises. And some people will not be happy with that because they bought the books with the promise that, okay, this will be limited. That's one of the things that made them special. So it's not as simple as that. You know what? Just reprint them. It will give more money. It's not that simple.
Yeah, like look, if and so is there Grim Oak Press or Curious King, and if Grim Oak Press, I think with that, these companies have to come in for the book. They will contact you and kind of say, hey, like, can we do an edition? And if Grim Oak Press or Curious King came to me and asked, could we do an edition? Like, that would be really cool, and we can work on something like that. So that sort of stuff is always there. Those rights are there. It just takes interest, and you get it sometimes for translations. People in Spain will say, "Oh, how come there's no Spanish edition?" I was like, "Honestly, the Spanish publishers haven't shown an interest."
Oh, they haven't?
Oh God, no. Spain, France, I haven't heard from at all. A lot of other countries, there's different stuff happening, but sometimes they just don't hear anything.
So there's that. So there might be in the future, but I have seen the cover art for the traditional published edition, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. You're all gonna love it. Yeah. So this is a good question. Would you ever write in sci-fi?
But probably in the softer space opera style. Like I don't think a hard sci-fi would ever be my thing, just because there's so many ways I can just be wrong all the time. And people in hard sci-fi tend to get very, very pernickety about how you say things, phrase things, what you state as fact. Whereas I think I like in fantasy the fact that I can kind of just make shit up. And there's a bit more hand wavium in the kind of space opera style sci-fi. So like I would love to write. I grew up with space opera, and it's like even what Christopher Rocchio is writing right now. I think at the minute he does have a bit more hard sci-fi in his, but he has it's a lot of space opera stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that I really like too. I grew up with that, and I'd love to write it someday.
Rocchio is amazing, man. Sun Eater and your books, they are so popular on my channel.
Christopher's a cool dude.
Yeah. What's the time frame for the tarot cards Kickstarter?
When the tarot cards are done.
How many?
It just depends.
How many are done now? How many are done now?
There's like 3/4 done, I think. But it's just at the minute, like the delay is my fault because I can't get more briefs over to the artist because I've been trying to finish off the release for this book. So it's hard to tell. It could be 6 months, it could be 8 months. It's just it could be longer, it could be shorter. I really don't have a time frame for it because it's one of those projects that I have in the background. I have enough deadlines on my head. So I kind of just said, when the art for this is done, great. And we can get more stuff ready, get it lined up. And once it's ready to go, then we'll do it.
Yeah. Well, we are already almost 1 hour into the chat, so let's talk a bit about of Vampires and Dust. But this one will be completely spoiler-free, so you don't have... We're
already 1 hour into the chat, so let's start talking.
Let's start talking, okay. So of Vampires and Dust, first of all, this will be out on the 21st of March. So that's right now, on my time zone, it is 28 already. So that's 3 days from now. So this is the fourth and the penultimate book. Wow, it's 1 hour, and I just start talking about this. But okay, yeah, this is the fourth and the penultimate installment. So some people have wondered whether the fifth book will truly be the final book, or maybe it will be divided into two books, considering how long of Empires End does this right now.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I want the fifth book to be the last book. I have no intentions on writing another book in this story. Like, I will revisit the world, but I think stories need to end, and I think, the whole concept of no one dies. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and that can be the case with some stuff. Like, I think you just read Crossroads of Twilight, so you understand that.
Oh, God, that
yeah.
scene. Oh, okay, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
That's
So, yeah, like at the end of the day, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write book 5. If it ends up being too long, I'll rework it into 2 volumes. But yeah, I've no intention of stretching out the story. I would like to finish it in 5 books. If it takes a stretch and a split into two books at the end, then that's what it takes. But I don't have a plan for it right now, so I'm gonna take some time off when this is done. Take a couple of weeks off. Chill out.
Like you can
finally.
do that. I don't think you can do that.
Chill out finally. I'm gonna write the next novella. Start writing some more short stories more consistently, and then in that time as well, I'm also gonna start. Then after the novella, I'm gonna start with all the planning and stuff for book 5, and take a bit of time. It's probably going to be, I've said it before my newsletter, it's probably going to be 3 years between the books this time, because I need to give myself some breathing room, and I need to be able to. I don't want to live the next few years under the same constant stress the last 4 years have been. And I think if I'm producing a book of that size in the space of 3 years, then I'm still on pace with Sanderson. So I'm happy with that. And I'll be doing things in between there just to keep my world spinning. But I think 3 years for a book this size, I think is very reasonable. Getting all these previous things done within the 4 years, 1.5 million words has been. It's been intense, and I'd like to breathe a little bit. And I feel like I've earned the trust to know that I'm not just going to vanish off and not finish this series. This last book is being written, and it's not going to be 12 years. I didn't actually mean to specifically pick on George there, because I actually have respect for George, but I don't know, we're not on first name terms. I don't know why I just call him George.
I call him George too.
Yeah, but he doesn't know me. We're not on those terms, but yeah.
But I think people know already by now that after you're done with the Bound and the Broken, there will be more coming from the world of Amphibia.
Yeah. I have plans for there'll be threads throughout the series, but they're their own unique stories. They're different enough that I think it's fun for me to write, and similar enough that it's fun for readers to stay in the same world. And then at the same time, I'll be writing outside of that series too. That'll be the plan. But I think there's a lot to come. Hopefully, as long as people keep buying the books and keep allowing me to do this as a job. I think that's the thing with being an author is, I don't know. I think if they reach a certain level, maybe, but I'm always, no matter how many books I sell, sitting there going, what if this ends next year?
No, I don't think that will happen, man. I think you have garnered a lot of very loyal followers. Yeah, I know. Okay, as a reviewer, I know.
as soon as you take something like that for granted, and this is the anxiety that I live under, just the way my brain works as well. As soon as you take that stuff for granted is when it slips away from you.
Yeah.
So I think not taking it for granted and not sitting back and resting on my laurels is kind of just what keeps me, sane.
Yeah. I think that's a good mindset, though. I always think that, you know what, if I stop doing this, if I take this for granted, something bad will happen to me immediately.
No, I'm going to be absolutely fucked if I stop.
Yeah. Something like that. So this is also a good question. This is from 30 minutes ago, but I think, did you have the entire story outlined when you started out, or did it all take shape along the way? I think you actually mentioned right in the beginning that this series will be 4 books. Was I wrong or right?
No, it was always planned for 5.
5, right?
Okay. So it's I've answered this question before, but it's essentially I've kind of always known what the ending of the whole series is, and then I've always known there's certain aspects. So like you'll see in book 4, there's been stuff that's been there from the very start. So that you might not have known about. And there's also stuff that most readers might even just gloss over and they won't realize. But I've left hints in book 4 to show you that there was characters who were there in book 1 that you definitely didn't know were there. But it's the blend. It's the blend and the difference. Right? So people talk about like Malazan, right? And they talk about like, you know, how amazingly complex and intricate and mad it is. But then there's other times where, like with Sanderson, say one of the complaints now is when he's trying to say something in the most recent book is that he kind of hits you over the head with it. There's no subtlety or nuance. He's so concerned about you making sure that the reader takes away what he's trying to say that there's no room for nuance where a reader might miss it. Now, I don't know because I haven't read it, but that's the balance. And so like I have some bits there that I could more overtly state the connections between book 4 and book 1. But if I do that, like, am I losing some of the nuance of it? So there's bits of it where if you're a reader who's going back trying to read through the series and you're paying attention and looking for things, you will see connections that other readers might miss because some of them are quite subtle. Like there's a character who's described in a certain way in multiple different times, and you might never realize that that character is the same character that appears in book 1, who is described a certain way. But there's been a lot of stuff that's planned. The overarching themes, the overarching plot, and then at the start of each book, I always know the last scene of each book.
Okay.
And then there's loads of things that I've planted in book 1 that I've always wanted to happen. A lot of major stuff. But then also, I like to leave room. So like when I go into a chapter, I'll say, okay, this needs to happen. This needs to happen. My character needs to be in this mind frame at the start and this mind frame at the end. I want them to get challenged this way, and I want the emotions to be like this. But then I start writing the chapter, and what I'm going to actually write isn't planned. So, you know, a lot of new stuff can come from that chapter just by these two characters having a conversation. So all I'm controlling there is the main conversation topic, where I want the chapter to end, and the kind of moods, emotions, and changes I want to happen. But then the actual flow of the chapter isn't structured. I don't do like a little draft of the chapter first or block out conversation or anything. I just have it.
Yeah, I think many authors can agree with that. They have something in their mind, but when they're starting writing, something new will always come to form.
Yep.
Do you find it harder as an indie author to look for adaptations of The Bound and the Broken in other mediums? How about that?
Yeah, well, see, it's hard for me because I haven't been, like, I suppose I'm technically kind of traditionally published with the Broken Binding deal, but like not in a normal sense. And so because I don't have that experience, I don't know if it's easy. I don't know if it's fair to say that I know if it's easier or harder. I do think there are traditional channels for adaptations. So if we're talking about adaptations to mediums being like film and animation and stuff like that, there are traditional channels that these companies and people would go down that indie authors aren't really involved in. So I would say it makes sense objectively that it is harder, just because you don't have the opportunities. You know, these film companies, these agents, these scouts would work in a certain way and have publishers that they would deal with and stuff they'd look out for. So I'd say it probably is harder. You don't really see a lot of indie authors getting film deals or any, to be totally honest.
Yeah, are there any? I don't think I've seen it.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But like even those, like I try not to focus on them, to be totally honest. Like you can lose yourself in it. Like you go get lost in that and you stop writing. Like right now I don't want distractions from my writing. If something comes amazing, potentially, maybe not. Like I've seen the way recent fandoms have reacted to certain adaptations, and the only one I agree with is Wheel of Time, because fuck that shit. But I hope it succeeds, and I think this is the difference for me, is I'm not out there bashing it saying I want it to burn. I hope it succeeds, and I hope the people who are enjoying watching it get to keep enjoying watching it, and that they keep finding what they're finding in it. But for me, no matter what they're doing from this point on, it is someone else telling the story they wanted and not Robert Jordan's story. And
yeah, I get that.
I just have no interest, because what I wanted to see was Robert Jordan's story adapted. And people go, it's an adaptation. It's like, no, this is a rewrite. An adaptation is trying to change, to make as minimum changes. That's a terrible English, but it's early here. To make the minimum amount of changes possible to adapt the story to a different medium. There will be changes, there will be adaptations, but for me, that one is a rewrite. There's core elements of the world, core elements of the perspective of the story that were completely altered and changed. And it's very much, to me, the case that the showrunner in that instance has decided that they want to tell their story. And I just have no interest in it. But I do hope that other people, I hope it succeeds, 100%. But some of the toxicity and some of the fandoms and some of the readerships have really put me off wanting things to be adapted.
I know.
Honestly. Yeah.
I have only watched season 1, and based on season 1, I actually very, very much agree with you. But I don't know about season 2 or season 3. But I don't know.
See, the thing for me is, if someone could tell me season 3 is the best piece of TV ever produced, and I still wouldn't watch it. It's just, there was too many story changes at the start that even if it's a brilliantly produced show, and the casting is fantastic, the actors are great, I think they are, but the story just has me disinterested. I have no interest in watching that story, and because it's almost like Uncanny Valley, if that makes sense. Like, I'm looking at a warped version of the thing that I love, and so no matter how good it is, I will always still be reminded that it's not the thing I love, but it's pretending to be. And so that kind of just doesn't allow my head to sit with it.
You mentioned a great thing, though. I mean, even if we're not interested in it, if this is successful, it do open a bridge to more fantasy adaptations.
More fantasy adaptations. Yeah. And people kind of forget that. They're like, if you just start trashing everything, what do you think? Do you think someone's going to come in and just make the version that you want?
No,
it's not going to happen. Like, the reality is, I'm probably never going to get a TV adaptation of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. And that it's okay. I have the books. I would have loved to have one. I would have loved to watch that story visualized. But I've read the books. I love the books. I know there's parts of the books that maybe aren't as good as some other parts of the books, but it's a 14-book series, written by 2 people. So it's gonna happen.
Yeah. So before we really end this conversation, because each book that you write, it keeps getting more harder for you to write. So what would you say provide the most difficult aspect of your writing? Like, of Vampire and Dust is 2 years, right, since Of War and Ruin?
Yes,
it is.
Like writing wise.
Yeah, writing wise.
Yeah.
2 years. Yeah. So what do you think contribute to that difficulty?
Well, it's just everything. I think it's about pushing yourself. Like, it's about, trying to be a better author, trying to work my craft better in all aspects, in character development, in character complexity, and plot threads. And that's one of the hardest things for me is there's a lot of plot threads. There's a lot of story threads going on, and it can be really easy for that to be overwhelming to a reader, or for it to just have no connection and make no sense. So it's, trying to make sure that that's happening, and trying to make sure that each narrative voice is distinct when you have this many points of view. There's so many things that contributed to it being harder, but like, I really do believe that if each book isn't harder than the last book, then you're probably just falling back into your comfort zone and writing the things that you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, part of this journey that's been one of the most enjoyable is trying to get better.
Yeah.
Like, trying to really learn my craft and trying to focus on that. That's been really fun. It is harder. Like, as you get further and further into any series, keeping up with the continuity, keeping up with the threads is damn hard. Like, you got to remember, like, hey, has this character had this conversation 1 million words ago? Did they talk about that? And they did talk about that, but did these 4 distinct characters know about that conversation? These are the things. Have these characters ever met?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's oh my god,
yeah.
it is.
It's very difficult. I mean,
Yeah, there's a
I'm not
reason
really.
Sanderson has like a team of checkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I've done a direction for your books, and even that one already made me really think. Like, wait a minute, what is this character wearing right now? Like, what's the wounds on his body? What's the wounds on their
Yeah.
body, and everything? And after thinking about that, this is difficult.
Oh man. Oh
Yeah,
man. But it's like I get it
very.
as well. Like it's why I do the recaps for the books because
Yeah,
like people go 2 years in between that, and there's a million words before this book. So like the recaps are going to miss so much because
yeah,
I'm not doing like a full synopsis, but it's to trigger you and to make you kind of remember certain names, certain places, things like that. But yeah, I totally get why people want stuff like that because coming up to these books, it can be intimidating. It's intimidating writing them.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. This is so funny. Woohoo! I made it. Ariana, get out of here!
Oh man.
Oh my god, have I credit? Oh my god,
Yeah,
that
no,
would be so funny, though.
it's
That would
its
be
own
so funny.
challenge.
But
It's
yeah,
its own challenge, and writing all this and sitting there. The hardest part is sitting here and sending those books out and just
mm,
going, okay, what's going to happen? And I think like the reality is, we talked about this. I talked about this the other day with someone. There was like a Facebook group, a fantasy faction, and every single time someone posted like a positive review of one of the books in it, someone else would come out to tell them how terrible a writer I am and how trash everybody is. It's
that
fun.
always,
Look, it's a thing that you have to get used to.
yeah,
And I think it's a thing that, like, for newer authors as well, is they've got to understand is the more success you find, the more people will come out of the woodwork. All
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Some people genuinely don't like your books, and that's okay. Some people want what you have, and they're annoyed that you have it.
yeah. That's
Um,
something you
some
have to remember in all
Yeah,
aspects.
and
Really. In all aspects.
100%. And there's some people who just feed on negativity. There's so many different things, and it's also understanding that some people just are not gonna like your books,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And like the guys on Two to Ramble, like I did a video with them for their Patreon, and I said to them it was real funny because I think Austin, yeah, Austin gave the book like 1.25 stars for Blood and Fire. Like, as in, like, to me that's like unreadable, like complete trash. And I knew before going in, I'd seen some of their tastes in books, and I was like, oh, these are cool guys, but I don't think they're gonna like the book. All right. And I think Richard gave it like 2.5 stars. And I was saying to them, like, it's the first time I've done an interview with someone who doesn't actually like the books. But it
Oh,
was
okay.
it was their book club, but a lot of their book club liked the book. And I'm sure a lot of their book club didn't like the book as well. But it's about
Okay.
like understanding that. Like, and I know they had asked me to do a little video for a video they're doing about like reviewers and authors and is it okay to be friends and
Oh,
stuff. And
yeah, I haven't made that as well.
yeah, I didn't get a chance to make it
Yeah.
because I've been pushing for this, and Ella's been screaming and stuff. And I think that's kind of part of it. Like, is you got to understand some people aren't going to like your books, and that's okay. And for a reviewer author friendship or relationship to work,
Yeah.
it can't be dependent on that dynamic. Like, if you don't like my next book, that's okay. We're still going to be okay. And like with that, like Austin and Richard don't like my book, but I can still go on and do an interview with them. I can still hang out with them, still chat with them. As soon as your relationship becomes dependent on someone liking your book, an undue pressure comes onto any like reviewer, any reader looking at that book, and it just gets weird. And like, it's a strange one because I think another concept and question that comes up. They're going to kill me because I didn't send them a video, but now I'm doing their video.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
We're making the video right now.
I'm making a video right now. But you can clip this and you send it
Yeah.
to Austin and Richard. But I lost my train of thought there.
No, I think you've been
Yeah,
pretty good at this, though. You've been pretty good
yeah,
at this.
that's the general thing. I think for those friendships to work, that expectation can't be there. Okay, you need to be friends first. Like, and at the same time, we're in this fantasy circle where, like, I genuinely cherish friendships over so much other stuff.
Yeah.
And it would be a genuine shame for me to decide that I'm not going to be friends with people that are into everything I'm into, that I get the chance to see in different parts of the world, just because they're a reviewer. And I think the whole concept of credibility, I think it's silly, because like, you don't lose credibility by being my friend, because as long as your reviews are consistent, so like,
Exactly.
and honest, like, and it's the same way that I don't think reviewers need to have negative reviews on their page. People, I love that. They're like, well, I can't trust them because they have no negative reviews. Like, what if they're selective readers who
Yeah.
pick books they know they're going to like, or books that are part of their taste? You know, more like, sure, there's some you don't like, but at the same time, as long as you're consistent, if you post 100 reviews and all those 100 reviews are 5-star reviews, as long as people can then follow them and go, yeah, like, I'm following Petrik because he is a consistent. You're not going to like every book. That your tastes aren't going to be the same as everyone. But if people are consistently liking a lot of the books that you like, and they keep liking them, it doesn't change anything. Like, I think a YouTuber and a reviewer build their own credibility. Like, there'll always be this shithead who comes out of the woodwork and goes, "You only gave that a good review because you love the author," or "You only
Exactly.
gave that a shit review because you hate the author." And it's gonna happen. You're gonna get those, but like, the reality is 99% of the people understand.
Yeah. And for me, the first time I read Ryan's books, it was The Fall. And I love that. I gave it 4 stars. I think the first time I read Of Blood and
Yeah.
Fire, I gave it 3 or 3.5. And Ryan was
I think
completely
I think you
I still
gave it 4. You gave
yeah.
it 4, and every interview and everything since then, you kept just saying, "Butterfire is okay." Fuck you, Petrik.
I think I actually gave it originally 3.5, but I graded to 4, I think, after reading Of
Oh,
Dark
you're
or
so
Sunlight.
nice.
Yeah. Of Dark or Sunlight was amazing. I think no one can deny that right now. But anyway, this is really good advice. Really, really good, because I think people have to remember that when we're rating books, we're rating the books, not actually the person.
Well, see,
Okay.
that's where you also have to be careful, because sometimes
Yeah.
you have reviewers and they can forget about the person
Yep.
behind the
Yep.
book, and some of the reviews can get like to a point that they're not really seeing past that.
Yeah.
There's ways to critique something
Yep.
without being
Evil.
cruel or
Yeah.
rude, or there's ways to do it, and you can choose to do whatever you want. If you want to be cruel or rude, that's okay. Like, I probably won't like you afterward, and it is a difference. You can give my book 1 star and I'll be your best friend,
Mm.
but if you give my book 1 star and then you start trashing me, or just really getting, if I am uncomfortable with the review, if you said like mean, cruel things, at the end of the day, that's different. That's the separation, and that is part of the risk. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
But it's not, for me. It'll never be about a bad review. But if someone, I've seen them in SBFBO sometimes. Some of the reviews I saw, they're fucking horrible. Like, they're
Oh,
not negative. People, oh, I shouldn't be
yeah.
allowed to have a negative opinion. It's like, no, you can. Yeah, but that's a really fucking mean review. Like, you're
SB
really, like, there's an author on the other end of that book, and they're going to read that, and you could have said all the things you said without being mean, but you're saying it that way to get views.
Yeah.
You're saying it that way because you come across as smart and sassy. And at the end of the day, you're producing content the same as me. Like, a reviewer is producing content to be consumed by consumers. I am writing a work of fiction with the understanding that readers are going to take that, consume it, and have opinions on it. That's exactly the same as a booktuber. You are creating content with the understanding that consumers are going to consume it and have
Yep.
opinions on it. So, at the end of the day, if you're going to have those opinions on books, people are going to have those opinions on the content you create.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
they're allowed to. So it's just one of those. I think it all falls back to the general "don't be a dick" rule.
Yeah.
The
Someone
general
said,
"don't be a dick" rule.
as a parent with a 5-year-old in a wheelchair, thanks for making a handicapped character awesome.
Oh, that sort of stuff honestly really means so much to me, because like, it is one of those things that in fantasy, to integrate those kind of things properly, you really do. Like, people say, what was the reason for the gay character? That's stupid. I don't need a plot reason for the character to be fucking gay. I didn't need a plot reason for a character to be straight. I don't need a plot reason for them to be gay. But things need to fit into the dynamic of the world. Not need to, But if you want things to really flow seamlessly, finding a way for that to fit without friction into the dynamic of the world really helps that. And taking the time to do it, and like I've never been in a wheelchair or anything like that, so I try not to write an experience from that person's point of view. I don't want to write what it's like to be in a wheelchair, because I don't know. Now I'm going to misrepresent it, but I wanted to find a way that could take like Chora and put her into the world, and in a way that made sense in the world, that would function in the world, and kind of find ways to have everything about her work. And like for me, like I think it did, and I'm really happy about it. And it's really nice knowing that it actually means something to someone, because being able to see yourself in a story is really important to me. And it's kind of like what I've said before, even with like race and skin color and stuff. Like in the books, skin color and stuff is described because I have a geography in the books, and I have like regions that people come from, and but at the same time, and it's something that I feel like after seeing Lord of the Rings, like Rings of Power come out, I have to kind of make sure I state outright that if someone turns around and changes skin color in their head, or if it does get adapted later on and someone has a different skin color, I don't give a fuck. Like I want people to be able to see themselves in the story. That's what's important. I want readers to be able to sit down and be in the story, and finding ways to make that happen. Skin color is easier from that regard. People can look at it and they can just flip the skin color in their head if they want to. But like stuff with the wheelchair is harder. Someone who's reading it is in a wheelchair. It's harder to just picture yourself in that place. So being able to find at least something small to even put in there was nice for me. It's really nice to see it be appreciated.
Yeah, I think that matters a lot, especially to readers. I don't think some people actually realize just how much that impact the readers sometimes.
Yeah.
So now it's almost 3:30 in my place, so I'm gonna sleep really soon.
I thought it was 4. I thought it was 4 a.m. when we started for you. So you're lying to me. You actually did this earlier than I thought.
But anyway, before the release of your books, I want to say congratulations. And what can the fans of your books expect from Of Empires and Dust?
I think it's very much still in the heart of War and Ruin. But I hope that the big thing that stands out is the character journeys and the depth of the world. I hope that when you go, it would be better because Petrik needs to suffer. He only gave Blood and Fire 3.5 stars. Okay, he needs to suffer. But yeah, I hope that when you get there, because I know it's one thing that I noticed when I was reading towards the end of Empires and Dust, and I was like, fucking hell, these characters have come a really, really, really long way. And like, I hope that you see that. And like, there's things I've said before. So say like with Cahill, and without going into a really long answer, like I wanted to write a main character that wasn't the typical main character, but seems like it. So like, obviously it's the boy, the farm boy. So they do seem like the main character. But I didn't want to write an 18-year-old with the mental fortitude of a 35-year-old war veteran, because that happens so much in fantasy. Like, you start with this 18-year-old main character, and they make the decisions that a 35-year-old would make. They have the logical reasoning of someone who has twice their years on the planet. And so I wanted to write an 18-year-old character who was an 18-year-old character. And I wanted to show them being forged into the main character. I wanted to show the pieces that make them the hero they're meant to be, instead of have someone who's a farm boy and within 2 minutes, they are the hero already. And every decision they make is heroic, and every decision they make is like, custom made for this. And so for me, Of Empires and Dust is a big part of it. Is a big part of Cahill's journey. I think different characters shine in different books, and for me, in book 4, a lot of it is back to being about the 3 guys, and about Ella, and about like Aeson, and a lot of the characters that we found in Blood and Fire, and really bringing that together. And thank you, Christopher.
Hey, Christopher, get to work, man.
But yeah, get to work. Okay, get writing or get painting or illustrating
Draw,
or
man.
drawing. That's the one. I was like, what word do I use?
Thanks, man. That's a good interview. Thank you both.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been fun. Ryan will be back on my
really
channel plenty of times throughout his career, many times.
Yeah, it's really weird coming back at different stages and different phases. And I literally, like I said,
I know.
uploaded those files at 3 a.m. So I uploaded them like 4.5, 5 hours before I came on this call, which is pretty cool.
I've been thinking about it. Even I think was our first interview the one where you were in Bali, or was that the second interview?
No, that was second at least, because we did one a long time ago.
Yeah,
we did one quite a while ago.
Yeah,
and then you crashed my honeymoon. And then you crashed my honeymoon.
Crash your honeymoon. Oh my god, that was fun.
Fucking Petrik.
Well, last reminder for you guys. Of Empires and Dust is out on the 31st of March, so that's three days or 4 days, depending on where
you are in the world. I'm actually end up getting like behind on stuff. I'm meant to be posting these countdown posts, and then I'm like posting 5 days when it's actually 4 days. And there's so many time zones, and they're crossing so many dates. I don't fucking know.
But yeah, you crashed his honeymoon? Yeah, he asked me to.
Yeah, he crashed my honeymoon in Bali, and he did an interview on it.
Yeah, you can actually check on my channel. Okay, I was at his hotel room.
He literally came to the hotel room. Like it was his own thing, and my wife approved.
Hey, don't tell our secret, okay?
It's not that often I'm in Indonesia, so it made sense.
Yeah, well, I will go to Ireland one day with you.
Yes, you will. And we're gonna get you drunk. And funny thing, guys, Petrik's secret is it takes him about 2 drinks.
Nah, my weakness is tequila, but I'm good with other drinks.
We call him Toucan Petrik.
No lies. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for coming to the stream. It means a lot that you are still watching this interview.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the 5th time now, the 4th or 5th time.
In fact, there's still 100 people, 91 minutes in.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so check out Ryan's books, okay? If you haven't read The Bun and the Broken, I really recommend it. If you love Dragon Rider epic fantasy, you love classic epic fantasy, but written with a more modern voice, check out Ryan's books. It's amazing. So yeah.
Aww.
Thank you, Ryan, for coming to my channel.
Thank you, Petrik. Bye-bye.
This time I will really end my stream, okay?
Oh, you guys were here the last time when he accidentally just left the stream and left the whole live stream on his channel to me. And it took him quite a while to realize as well.
Yeah, okay. This should be
correct.
Go on,
just log out yourself there. I'll look after these guys.